Right, well, here's another interesting matter. In some of the questions that have come to us, what we've taken the liberty of consolidating a few together. So let me lob this in as a consolidated question. Is now the right time to buy or let commercial property for owner occupation or investment? Perhaps Simon would like to lead off on that one, being the answer to yes.
Well, I was going to perhaps come in on the commodities questions first.
Okay.
Not because I know anything about commodities or stocks and shares, but to talk about property as an asset class. There are many reasons not to buy property. It's illiquid, it's slow, it's costly. It takes a long time to buy and sell, which is the same as illiquid. It could also be a liability. If you've got a vacant property, there are rates and there's insurance and all sorts of costs. But we talk about direct and indirect investment into an asset class, and of course there's direct and indirect investment into property. And we find that a lot of clients have been disillusioned and fed up with other particular asset class and investment vehicles, and they've chosen to go it alone and to invest in property directly. Why? Are they wise? Maybe, maybe not, but at least they have control, at least they can see it and they can drive by it, and at least if the property market goes completely off the rails, it will still be there and it will have some intrinsic worth. So in terms of an asset class, that's one of the good points, and I've told you a few of the negative points. But in terms of property, why is property a good investment? Well, you can change the use of a property from an office to residential, or you can change from a shop to a restaurant. You can't change the use of a bond or a investment in commodities. You can't put an advertising hoarding on the side of an ISA, and you can't perhaps park your car on a particular financial investment. So there are many ways in which property actually excels as an asset class. There are also opportunities to earn super profit from property. Now, of course, I'm not by any means saying you should bundle into property and ignore everything else. But there are an asset class might outperform the market, and property that you invest in might outperform the market. But if I give you this example, we look after 5,000 commercial tenancies nationwide, and I look after a particular parade of shops in a North London suburb, and a tenant wants to. There's one particular property that's sold off on a long lease, and the tenant they wish to let the property to is Barclays Bank. And Barclays Bank want to site their air conditioning on the property, and there's only one place to site the air conditioning, and that's on the roof. And they're not allowed to site the air conditioning on the roof, and the landlord can say yes or no. And we're getting £20,000 for the privilege of siting air conditioning on the roof. Now, that's one of the reasons, or one example of why property can really outperform anything else, because there's often a hidden reason why it will give you a super profit. So that was my response to a commodity-based question.
Okay.
In property terms. And now you want to know about
the property man's comment. So, Stephen, what's the view from the Mayor's office about London property prices generally, perhaps, and how they're affecting SME businesses?
Well, there are a number of issues, and let me just say I'm not speaking for the Mayor. He speaks pretty well for himself, as you know. And I sit on the London Enterprise Panel as an independent business representative on that group. But one of the things we're certainly thinking about is what are the obstacles that smaller businesses have to grow in the greater London area? What are the things that are inhibiting the job creation that we're trying to create? Access to suitable sites is certainly part of it. So I think it's a two-part question, at least. If I'm a small business owner and I'm debating whether to invest in the building that I'm occupying or to invest in capacity and working capital and other things that are going to grow my business, I would rather see the investment into things that are going to grow my business. As we think about, as a community, how do we provide the opportunities for small businesses to grow? Where do they grow from? Businesses that started in somebody's bedroom and have moved into their garage and now need greater space, and increasingly you're going to need more space in a city environment where new high-end real estate is going for £2,000 a square foot. We've got a bit of an occupancy issue, and so how do we think about creating shared hubs, sites, venues, places where businesses can congregate and grow and not be choked by the high cost of occupancy, which we unfortunately have in London.
Sure. Nick, do you want to add to the property, commodity, other investment class debate from the position of a lawyer?
I have no position as a lawyer on commodities. Until about half an hour ago, I was on the commodity front. I saw an article in the paper over the weekend that the performance of various assets over 10 years, and the highest performer was classic cars. And
Oh, thank God for that. I've got one of those.
I should say the FTSE 100 was second from bottom, and bottom was furniture. But the classic cars, I thought, well, at least it's something you can enjoy. And then I met Jonathan out there playing, and he quickly persuaded me that the world of classic cars is a nest of vipers that one should only approach with deep caution and talk to someone like him. So the idea of buying wine that you can't drink, I think, is just an appalling prospect. So that's certainly not one for me. On the property front, I think an interesting perspective is before our merger with Burkitt's, we were a specialist corporate law firm called Williston's in Chelmsford, and the partners owned the freehold, and we only bought the freehold from the institution that owned it, so we could develop the site and create more space. And the intention was, as partners, that we would then sell the lease back to a pension fund and on a sale and leaseback basis. We actually enjoyed and still enjoy being our own landlords. And there are many reasons why not, because it can cause issues within a business and mixing whether you're in business or whether you're in property investment. But you can't get away from the fact that not having to ring up an agent or a landlord to ask whether you can put a pot plant outside the front door is a huge advantage.
For £20,000.
Or more, yes.